Cisneros.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Colby, Secretary Colby, for being here today. I want to go back to the Gerald Ford. Was there an SDOB meeting before the Ford was moved down to the off the coast of Venezuela?
Sir, I'd have to defer that question. I'll get back to you with, not sure what I can say in this open session.
Okay. Were you part of that meeting?
Sir, same answer. I'm just not sure classification and so forth.
Okay. Was the gift map modified during that meeting?
Same answer, sir. I'll get back to you based on classification and just deliberative discussions.
All right. So is this something that we can discuss in the closed session?
I think so. I think we can talk around some of the general issues. I'm not sure what from a legislative executive point of view, might be sort of privileged information that's deliberative.
Okay, well, I will bring this up in the closed session as well, if you won't answer it here, but my concerns are really is like what concerns were brought up by moving the Ford around and keeping it out for 11 months, but if you won't answer those for me
Sure,
here.
I can address that. I mean, I think actually the aircraft carrier is precisely, and I've advocated for it to be moved around to priority theaters. It's part of its a huge part of its value is the ability to be mobile and go where the president, whichever president it is, it decides that that's the priority theater, that it's not fixed in place. It can move around, delivers a tremendous amount of combat
we all
power.
know the value of an aircraft carrier and its ability to kind of move around and having it go, right? But we also knew, too, there's concerns about keeping it out for 11 months. There's maintenance concerns, and there's concerns about when it has to go into the work period and what's going to come next after that, right? Those are some of the things I want to address, but I want to talk about the SDOB as well and the changes that were made, but we'll try answering those in the closed session. So if you want to answer that, then I guess we'll get to the next thing. What is the Dunroe doctrine?
The way we put it in this document is the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, which is basically ensuring that American interests in the Western Hemisphere are respected once again.
So what is the difference between the Monroe Doctrine and the Dunroe Doctrine?
I'd have to get back to you with a specific answer in terms of the precise text, but obviously the Monroe Doctrine is a historic document going back 200 years, and this is more of an updating, similar approach as U.S. policy has been towards the Western Hemisphere for 2 centuries, which is to ensure that our interests are respected.
Right, I think
except in recent generations.
I would say that the Monroe Doctrine was a policy that came out by President Monroe to kind of keep outside influence outside of the Western Hemisphere, not to come in here. And now the Dunroe Doctrine, as the President is calling, is one not only to keep outside influence in, but it's to exert influence upon the Western Hemisphere to make sure that they bend to American will and need. Would you concur with that?
I don't, and I think we also have to look at the Roosevelt corollary of the Monroe Doctrine from about 100 years ago, which is important about as the United States grew in power. Obviously, I take your point, sir, about the Monroe Doctrine. But I think, and I don't think that even today, the Secretary is leading a coalition of Latin American states. A lot of Latin American states have responded very positively to our actions in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, are they doing that, again, are they doing that out of fear? Right, because are we not blockading the coast of
I think a lot of them are doing because there's a shared view of the threats, narco-terrorism, instability, et cetera.
Well, again, okay, now you want to talk about narco-terrorism, and we'll get to that, but what authority does the Department of Defense have to conduct these operations, which are basically lawful operations to kind of supersede and bomb these boats that are claiming to be transporting illegal drugs? We don't know because we're just bombing them and we never kind of go in there and kind of see or try to gather any of the evidence.
Sir, I defer on the legal issue, but I would say that I think the view from a kind of broader point of view is that these are, these narco-terrorists are bringing very deadly, lethal drugs in the United States.
Let me ask you this, what authority as the Director of Policy at the Department of Defense, and really to get your opinion, how did you advise the Secretary to that, okay, now, basically, the Department of Defense is conducting legal operations, really, justice operations, police operations, rather than, which is not our authority to do so.
Well, I think a different assessment that I defer to my colleagues on the legal side, but I fully support the operations that are done consistent with the law, and they are. And this is a very serious threat to the American people, and that's one of the main points of the strategy is to introduce the military instrument into the defense of our interests in the Western Hemisphere, but not overdoing it.
It's not there to conduct law, right? It's not a law enforcement agency.
But law enforcement wasn't working, sir.
Well, it
wasn't sufficient. Obviously, it's a critical part of it.
I will not argue that point, right? But that doesn't make the Department of Defense a law, all of a sudden now it has to start enforcing the law because it wasn't being done properly. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired. I've just been made aware by staff